I never imagined I would hear those words. We had been together for 3 years, building a life that on the surface seemed stable and filled with trust. Yet one evening, she looked at me with tears brimming in her eyes and simply said, "I kiss my ex." That moment felt like a fracture in the room itself. The walls closing in as her confession hung between us, heavy and suffocating. I stared at her, letting the words settle, without reacting immediately. Every instinct in me screamed, but she kept going, voice trembling as she recounted the circumstances. A party, a shared joke, the pull of old familiarity, and then a fleeting lapse. I listened, without interrupting, without pleading, without asking the questions I was desperate to hear. There was a temptation to raise my voice, to demand apologies or explanations that might somehow stitch the cracks back together. But in that moment, I understood that silence would speak louder than anything I could say. It wasn't about revenge or making a point. It was about clarity, understanding what had changed and recognizing what could no longer remain the same. Her eyes searched mine, looking for anger or hurt, the collapse she expected from someone who loved blindly. But I stayed still, calm, measured, each heartbeat deliberate, each thought anchored in reason, not impulse. She began to sob, the weight of her regret pressing down, assuming it would break me. But I did not crumble. I took a slow, steady breath, letting her confession fully land, accepting the truth she revealed while refusing to be swept into immediate reaction. After a long pause, I finally spoke, my voice calm but unwavering. "Thank you for telling me," I said, not because it was easy, not because it didn't hurt, but because honesty, even when painful, deserves acknowledgement. She blinked, stunned, expecting a storm, a collapse that would mark a point of no return. But I remained composed. I wasn't naive. I understood the gravity of what she admitted. Yet I also knew the limits of what I would accept in my life. She tried to explain further, fumbling over words, attempting to apologize, justify, and plead all at once. Her remorse was genuine, but the damage was evident. Trust that had taken years to build had fractured in an instant. And yet, I realized something crucial. My response would define not just the rest of the night, but the shape of our relationship moving forward. I refused to act out of anger. I refused to beg or perform some dramatic ritual of emotion. Instead, I focused on clarity. "I need time," I said simply. That was all. No blame, no argument, just a statement of reality. She sank into the couch, head in her hands, tears slipping through her fingers. I stood silently, observing her reaction, knowing the next steps were mine to choose. I understood that the world didn't demand an immediate resolution, that sometimes moving through discomfort with quiet resolve was far stronger than any outburst. As the evening stretched on, we existed in a fragile balance. Her apology, my measured calm, each of us aware that nothing would be the same. The room remained silent, save for her occasional sobs and the ticking clock, marking consequences that could not be ignored. The following days were quiet, almost painfully so. She reached out repeatedly. Texts, calls, messages full of remorse and pleas for understanding. Each one tested my resolve. I didn't reply, not to punish her, but because I needed space to process what had happened and to decide what I deserved. I reflected on the life we had shared, the laughter, the comfort routine, and the trust that had been broken. I realized that love without trust is fragile, and no apology can instantly repair what has been damaged. I understood that the strength of my response would not be measured in anger or retribution, but in the steadfastness with which I upheld my principles. Eventually, we spoke again, not in confrontation or anger, but through calm, honest conversation. I told her that I could not continue as though nothing had happened. She listened, nodding, fully grasping the consequences she had set in motion. I didn't take satisfaction in this moment, nor did I gloat. It was simply acknowledgement of reality, a moment of clarity for both of us. In the weeks that followed, I focused on myself, rebuilding routines, reconnecting with friends, nurturing the sense of self that had begun to fade under the weight of betrayal. She moved forward as well, though the regret in her eyes occasionally surfaced, a reminder that actions carry consequences. Sometimes, the strongest statement we make is the one we don't speak. choosing calm, measured action, walking away with dignity rather than despair, becomes a quiet testament to self-respect. And in that silence, I found peace. Proof that even after betrayal, one could emerge stronger, centered, and unbroken.